the sun is shining, the blue skies be blueing, and the whimsy's taking me there. It is time for a medication update video. So far I have done thrice medication videos, which I know is not the proper use of that word, but Mr. Rachel gets annoyed when I do that, and I find it hilarious. It's been over a year since I did my last medication update video. I'll be honest, I didn't go back through that to check what I'd said. I thought that would be helpful, maybe to insert some clips here, but I couldn't be bothered, and I'm going to be honest with you about that, because part of my creative process, if you will, and my ability to just like do these videos is to not make it a whole thing, because then I won't do it. So I'll be honest, I can't quite remember what I said, but I trust that this is going to be a continuation and it's going to get us where we want to get to, because the big news really is that I have stopped taking Concerta XL long-acting medication and I have switched to the short-acting 3 times a day of 10 milligrams of methylphenidate. And I want to talk to you talk to you in this video about why. A couple of things I do remember noting in my previous videos that I was trying to figure out how I felt about the way they were working for me was around hormonal changes, so premenstrual syndrome. One of the things I noticed is that when my long-acting medication would wear off in the evenings, I could feel it very noticeably around that like 1 week to 10 days before my period, when my ADHD symptoms are much worse. So one of the changes I initially made was to get short-acting medication to top the long-acting up in the evenings, and that was working really well for me. The second thing that I noted was that after taking long-acting medication for a while, I felt like it had kind of stripped away or removed a part of myself that was so kind of intrinsic, is that the word? So like fundamental to my personality, which is my more like, woo, I'm trying not to be so like archetypally, did I make a word? I'm trying not to be so like stereotypically cliched, like look at me with my ADHD, but it's just true, right? Like part of the way that I am, and I think what makes me me, is the distractibility and the ability to like look at this tree and be like, isn't that the most amazing tree that I've ever seen? And have that floodlight of attention, the floodlit attention where you're kind of perceiving everything that's going on around you, that can feel really overwhelming, but also is such a great source of like joy and creativity for me. And I'd started to notice that kind of was being dampened a bit. So I'm going to come back to those points as I explain to you what led to this change. A quick sidebar that I hadn't actually mentioned in my videos before, because it's been such a long time, is that I did try doing this about 1.5 years ago. My psychiatrist was like, seeing as I'm going to give you short-acting to top up your long during your PMS week, why don't you just try it and see what it's like taking 3 short-acting a day? And I didn't like it. It didn't help me in the way that I wanted it to help. But it's important to note that at that point, I was working still for somebody else. I was in a corporate job. A job that I've explained in my career videos was like on paper great, but I just like really wasn't loving it. I wasn't fulfilled. My motivation was in the gutter. I was finding it really, really difficult to just like do basic things and get through the day. So at that point, the short-acting medication didn't feel like it did enough for me to manage essentially. Then in January of last year, there was a medication shortage. There still is an ongoing medication shortage, but it was the first time that I was really like, I'm gonna have to ration these meds because I can't get them. I went to 10 different pharmacies just before Christmas, the year before last, just to get my prescription filled. And so I ended up in this reality where I was so conscious of the fact that I might run out that I was trying to ration my medication. And so I was trying to make judgments as to which days it would be more fruitful for me to take my meds. And when I had a check-in with my psychiatrist about it, I said to her, the Rachel that I am on my medication days is so different from the Rachel on my non-medication days, not in like my personality and who I am at my core, but like in the strategies that I need to get through the day. So when I'm not on my meds, it's all about getting myself to do stuff. When I am on my meds, it's all about getting myself to not do stuff and remembering to take breaks and things like that. And so it was through talking to her where she was like, you don't have to exist in like it's one extreme or the other here. Like we can find a way that you can take medication that feels like it's better suited. Because through that kind of stark contrast, I began to realise that actually there were more times than before where I didn't feel as good, like my mood wasn't as good on my long-acting meds. Now at this point I'm working for myself. I have a lot of control over my calendar, over my diary, over the type of work, calendar and diary are the same thing, yeah? But over the type of work that I do and how I curate my day. And so I have the flexibility to put a lot of other strategies in place, which is important because I think that is one of the things that has allowed me to feel much happier now on the short-acting medication. So she said, why don't you just give it a go? Try taking 3 10 milligrams a day of methylphenidate. And I've been doing that now probably for a year. I feel like I got my times all mixed up when I've been saying it's been this long or this long, who knows, but for a period of time now. I'm going to talk a little bit now about how I would distinguish, I guess, my experience on the 2 different medications. So that's Concerta XL, long-acting, 36 milligram was what I was taking that would last probably 10 to 12 hours, versus what I do now, which is take 3 lots of a 10 milligram methylphenidate throughout the day. The main difference that I've seen is in my mood, but I don't think that's because the long-acting impacts my mood directly. I think it's because, not to get too philosophical about it, but it just impacts the fundamental sense of who I am. I lose, as I've mentioned, that ability somewhat to be more whimsical, and I can just lock in and be serious and crack on with stuff. And that's great, and that's what I needed for so long, and sometimes I definitely still need that. It makes, you feel more able and capable in life. But over a long period of time, I felt like it was just sucking my essence dry, and I lost a bit of a sense of joy and happiness for myself throughout the day. So that's the biggest difference in why short-acting works better for me than long-acting. The compromise, if you will, the trade-off for that, is that I am harder to manage on my short-acting medication. And I don't mean harder to manage for other people. I don't take them for other people. I mean myself. And I know that you get it. I know that you know it. Sometimes you're like, give me a break from this hell that is existing in my own self. And so with the short-acting, I think the best way to describe it is the short-acting still doesn't really give me any control over where my attention goes or where my motivation goes, but it means that when it's gone somewhere, I'm locked in easier and for longer, and I'm able to bat away those distracting internal thoughts a little bit more than when I'm not on them. Whereas I feel like, if I take today as a good example, if I'd taken long-acting meds today, I would have been able to sit at my laptop and get done some of the more administrative, putting content thing, basically the tasks that I find boring and can't really be bothered to do. I would have been able to do those today on long-acting medication with not really any objections, and I would have just cracked on. But I would have just kind of felt like this all day. Doing the stuff. Doing the stuff, done the stuff. Doing the stuff, getting the stuff done, right? It's fundamentally what we want, but it's also boring as fuck. Taking my short-acting medication today, I've done some of that stuff, but I've done it sporadically when the inspiration has taken me there, and I haven't done all of it, but I'm okay with that today because I know that there's another point in time where I'm gonna figure that out. And so it's essentially a trade-off for me between these 2 medications of being always constantly productive or being chaotically productive in a whimsical manner but still being happy. I know which one I choose, because I have chosen it for the last year. If you were to say to me, but Rachel, please summarize. Interlude. Business Rach here, can you tell? I made a hat, says Business Rach, and it was also supposed to say doing business, but I missed out the end, so it currently says doing business. But you know what? I wasn't going to redo it. I'm here interluding with this quite literal business hat on to share something with you that I've got going on that's exciting. I'm always talking about the ADHD brain, how it works, and that feeling when you've got a million creative ideas and inspiration and a fire burning inside of you, but you don't know how to get it out because it's overwhelming, and there's this little voice in your head that's also just like, me, but you can't do it though, it's not possible. Well, I've created something with exactly that in mind. I wanted something with more of a community group feel, so I have created Create Without Fear. It is a 6-week group journey for us fizzy-brained folks who are desperately wanting to reconnect with creative joy without all of the overthinking and self-judgment. It's for you if you've got a graveyard of half-finished projects that you can't bear to look at, loads of brilliant ideas that just don't get to see the light of day because you just feel like, what's the point starting something that I'm not going to finish? And if you have that constant voice that's in your head telling you that whatever you do isn't good enough. Here's what we'll do. I'll be your guide. There will be 8 of us We will meet every week for 6 weeks, over Zoom for 1.5 hours. We'll tackle perfectionism, befriend our inner critics, learn to embrace creative mistakes, and build resilience to put yourself out there in the face and fear of rejection sensitivity. There's no homework, there's no pressure, everything happens inside the session, just a supportive community of people who get it, making it up as you go along, learning and overcoming fear. A few last business, I should have tightened this hat, I think, business Rach details. It is limited to 8 people. We start Wednesday, the 21st of May from 6:30 till 8 p.m. UK time, every week for 6 weeks. Full details are in the link in the description and in the little pop-up thing that is currently on the screen here. Enrollment closes May the 19th, 8 spots. I really hope that you join me on this coddywampling adventure. Business Rach out. Over to regular Rach. If you were to say to me, Rachel, please summarise why then you take these short-acting medications, like what is the actual benefit? I would say that the biggest impact that they have on me is they reduce the constant level of dread and the feeling that I can just never be arsed. Like, that was always such an intense feature of my life that, like, I just never really want to do anything. That's why I always thought I was lazy. Unless I want to do it, and it's in the moment, and I'm excited, and I'm inspired, and we've decided right now, anything else is like, oh, do I have to? Do I have to? That is a heavy weight to carry all of the time. So what I would say is short-acting meds, they just like elevate that, and so it's an easier existence because not everything feels like a chore or feels like there's this massive hump you've got to get over. The other thing I was going to say on that was, oh yeah, related to that, is it helps me create the conditions to have a quote-unquote successful, productive, happy day, which is just the basic things like getting up and showering, right? Because I work for myself, all of my structure is self-imposed. I don't really have any external accountability, and that is pretty hard sometimes and very tiring. But meds make it easier because I will just go and do the things like go for a shower and get dressed, which sounds so simple, but I know, you know, we know. That's the kind of thing where often it'd be like, oh, do I have to though? Do I have to? But once you're showered and you're dressed, the rest of your day just kind of unravels from there and it flows from there. Take today as an example. I got up, I had a quick shower, I got dressed, I went to yoga, I came home, did a few things at home for a while, then I had another shower, washed my hair, got dressed, put my makeup on again. If I hadn't have been medicated, the idea of showering twice and doing makeup twice in the same day is just like, why? What? Like, so much effort, why would I possibly do that? But those are such the small things that then set me up where I go, well, I guess I'll do a YouTube video now. I wouldn't be doing this if I was still, well, maybe I would actually, to be fair, because I'm not that precious about it, but like, if I was still sweating in my workout gear or hadn't got dressed for the day, I wouldn't feel human enough to do certain things. So it essentially sets up, I guess, the conditions for the rest of my day to kind of unfold and unfurl in a productive manner. Some of you might also be asking, but what about the hormonal situation? Yeah, that's a thing. Short-acting meds doesn't work as well for me as the long-acting ones around that time. I take 4 in a day on those ones, but I have noticed that like my emotions and the impact of premenstrual syndrome is more challenging on my short-acting medication than on my long-acting. At the moment, that's been quite manageable for me because my life is relatively stress-free, but I fully see a reality in all of this, right? There's no one solution that's fixed forever. Things might change, circumstances might change in my life where I go, actually, right now, I need to sacrifice feeling peppy, whimsical fun just to get through the day, so I'll take the long-acting ones. But I think it's just it's a back and forth. It's an awareness, it's a words. It's knowing what works for you, and when it stops working, knowing that there are options for you to switch and change around, which is why I wanted to share this update, because I know, especially from my first like 30-day video, some of you might be watching that being like, oh, this woman's life's changed forever. And I mean, it has changed forever, but that's because of the diagnosis, that's not because of the medication. And I will add one final thought for those watching this who are medicated, for those watching this who are not yet medicated, and I feel for you because I know there's such a challenging shortage at the minute, but I will share this lasting, I have no control over whether this will last for you. I'll share a last thought. Medication has done so much for me, a lot of it just being validation, but as to what I've just explained, being able to do the day. But something I have done since 2018, like 7 years now, is journal. And that's not necessarily having to look a certain way, it's not having to do it every day, it's not answering specific questions. When I say journal, really what I mean is I constantly externalize my thoughts, either in a written format or a verbal format. And if you said to me, Rachel, from now for the rest of time, you can only have one, ADHD medication or the ability to journal, externalize your thoughts, which one would it be? I would 100% choose the journaling. Because meds, yes, they have done so much for me, and I'd rather have both of those tools, and right now I do, but they don't give you the tools and the ways to deal with your thoughts, your feelings, life, in a way that for me personally, just being able to get all of this out onto a page and make sense of it has been able to do. So take that and do what you wish with it.